Well, we're here in Grande, Prairie, Alberta, and we're with Mayor Bill Given in this is a wonderful facility. Why don't you tell us a bit about it?
Thank you. Well, this is the Eastlink Center. It's a $110 million facility that we just opened in 2012.
Outstanding. Well, as a former lifeguard, I have to tell you this is an amazing facility. In fact, every element of this building is quite something, and we're proud to be here. We're going across the province, off to FCM. We're going to be in FCM later this afternoon, talking to mayors about what we call the rural-urban connections. We want to make sure that we understand better how local governments in urban centers and rural centers can actually understand each other better. What do you think of the kind of issues that rural and urban have?
Yeah, actually in Alberta, we have maybe a little bit more of a unique circumstance. If you think about the economy in Alberta, a lot of our industrial activity actually happens in the rural areas. All the oil and gas developments, pipelines, and natural gas processing plants, and those kind of things. So there is actually a bit of a challenge in our province because we typically see the urban centers providing all of the amenities and facilities and basically the hub that allows the resource sector to work. Well, the resource sector is paying a significant amount of property taxes to rural municipalities that may not provide as much service. So it is absolutely a topic of discussion in our province and provides a bit of a challenge. But having said that, I think the biggest thing that we have to recognize is that we can't divide our community into two parts. You cannot separate urban from rural. Ultimately, we're all part of one community.
Okay, and Grande Prairie, describe this city.
Yeah, so Grande Prairie is the youngest city in Canada. Our median age is 30.3. We actually have more children from 0 to 5 than we have seniors 65 plus. So that means that things like rec centers are very important to us. We're also recognized as one of Canada's most entrepreneurial cities. Our tagline is actually resourceful spirit, growing opportunity, and that speaks to the industrious nature of people that are here. In times gone by, it might have been called a pioneering spirit, but today we're calling it an entrepreneurial or innovative spirit. And that's something that really is inherent in the culture of our community. And you see that in our Chamber of Commerce. Grande Prairie is the 7th largest city in Alberta. We actually have the 3rd largest Chamber of Commerce. So a very business-focused and entrepreneurial community.
Outstanding. Well, that sounds wonderful. Climate change, how does that affect your realities here?
Yeah, we are starting to see that. The City of Grande Prairie has done a lot of work we actually have a climate change adaptation policy on the books that says that staff need to consider how we're going to adapt to climate change in our operations. We're starting to see a lot more variability in our winter patterns. And that has a big impact on us in snow removal, where we get a huge dump of snow in a short period of time and is very challenging for our crews to address that. And then it'll all melt shortly after. Well, not all melt. I wish it would all melt. But then we get significant melt, and that ends up, when we get these number of days above 0, obviously that leads to potholes. And so as a municipal politician, climate change is something that we're dealing with day in and day out and causes a lot of frustration.
So really it's a greater frequency of extreme weather events, unusual weather events.
Yeah, well, extreme weather events. Over the course of a winter, the last number of winters, we've received maybe average or above average snowfall, but we're finding that rather than it being spread out over the course of the 4 or sometimes 6 months of winter, that it's all coming in short bursts over the course of a couple of weeks. And that's actually led us to changing our snow removal policy and practice and actually going away from a system that we've had for about 20 or 30 years. It's caused a lot of consternation in the community because when you touch snow removal, of course, people get a little touchy about that. But so that's a really practical way that I feel that we've seen the impacts of climate change.
Okay, and a question we're asking mayors across our trip. Do you have any advice? What advice could you give to other elected officials as we head to FCM this afternoon?
Wow, that's a big, there's a book on that. And I know that all the public loves to give advice to elected officials. So from one elected official to the next, I guess, I think my advice would be that let's keep in mind why we're really here. I think we have two purposes as elected officials. The first is to help residents connect into government services. People are looking who to call to do something. And I don't think as an elected official it's my job to do that for them, to make that call. but it's my job to help them understand how the city works and who they can connect to. The second job I think we have as elected officials is to keep our eye on the big picture. We really have to be the visionaries for our communities. We have to be considering where we're going 50 or 100 years out because residents have to be concerned about their day-to-day lives. So that big picture vision falls to us.
Well, thank you very much for having us here. It's a great day. We're here in Grande, Prairie, Alberta with Mayor Bill Given.